Your startup can beat COVID-19. Are you ready to overcome? Let's talk strategies and tactics today. Hello, everyone. I'm Tessa with Actually, I'm not going to introduce myself yet. I'm going to take a minute and say hi to everyone. Because we have so many people that are already in here. Hello, everyone. We have Kelly, we have Stephanie, Sean, Kristen. We have some people over on YouTube. Thank you guys, Donna. And I wish I could pronounce your name. I'm just going to put it up. I think Kwame. But let me know if I'm saying that wrong. I'm horrible with names, so I apologize if I butchered it. Nice to have you. Rachel, thank you guys all so much for being here. I know we're right on top of a holiday weekend, so you have lots of things you could be doing, but you guys are here with us, and that means a lot. So thank you for being here. Bill, Debbie, Odin, thank you. I love having you guys here. So we are going to bring in a special guest today, but before I do that, I'm just going to put up some hellos. Stephanie from Northern Ontario. Nice to have you here. I'm actually highlighting some people I haven't seen ever. So Ray, hey, nice to see you. I'm glad you're over here. Shelly, Lindsay. Oh, Lindsay, you did a really good job on your pitch, girl. I'm glad we had you in there with us. And Bill from Goliath, and he is amazing. His product is awesome and it's evolving. Kristen, happy Friday. Good to see you. Sean, hello, as always. I'm so glad to have Sean's one of our top fans as well. So, I mean, we have so many people in here right now, so I'm going to have to pop over. Hey, Steve, I'm glad you made it. Yes. It's not the heat, it's the humidity that will kill you. It's true. Mary, good to have you. And then we have Recite. Michael, great to have you over here. And so let's start talking about this. How can you beat COVID-19 with your startup? And I have a special guest. Let me get him in for you guys. There we go. All right. Let's get him. Oh, there we go. Okay. So I'm Tessa. I'm the director of marketing at IdeaPros. And I have Simon Solotko, who is our chief marketing officer. That's how you CMO, Chief Marketing Officer at IdeaPros. Thank you so much, Simon, for being on with us to talk about this. We have a lot of information. I'm going to put up a presentation, but do you want to kind of introduce the topic while I'm getting that up?
Sure, Tessa, sure. So, it's interesting how during COVID-19, everyone has become a COVID-19 expert. And so, yeah. And of course, we're not all COVID-19 experts. This is new. We're in uncharted territory largely. However, a lot of traditional business practices and rules that often apply to startups still apply, some with some twists in the game. And I was just very lucky after I got my master's degree in finance to study for a full year in the doctoral seminars of a fellow named Dr. Frank Bass. And he was one of the pioneers in a field called diffusion theory. And it turns out diffusion theory is the theory and mathematics of how things spread. And so it turns out that I have some PhD work in how things spread. And so I actually early on built a COVID-19 diffusion model. I'm going to go through that model with you guys at a top level, so you know at least what I know about the diffusion of this disease. I also wound up being largely right. And that only goes to if you're willing to be objective and you don't have an agenda and you've got math skills, you can apply those. And so I did that. And it's just really interesting. There's a few layers of the conversation we're going to have. One is the relationship between how we model in marketing and how we model the spread of a virus. And it's really neat to see that interrelationship just intellectually. It'll make you smarter from a marketing perspective if you understand that and maybe tie together some neurons that hadn't been tied together before. And then, so we're going to talk about that. And then we're going to talk about the sectors and product categories that I would find attractive given where we're at and where we're headed. And then some business tactics. Really, I want to reiterate some of the lean startup techniques that we employ at IdeaPros that are really just so powerful and proven. for startups who are always under fire, resource constrained. And I want to talk a little bit about how those remain important even in this strange era.
Wonderful. Do you want me to go ahead and go to the next slide?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
While you guys are here, though, before we go into this, make sure that you are marking to get subscription or to subscribe to our channel so you'll get notifications, because I know that some people catch the front end of our shows and then they aren't able to stay all the way through till the end. So make sure that you subscribe and get notifications, whether you're on YouTube, Facebook, or on a replay over on IGTV. And now we'll get going here. Okay.
As Tessa will tell you, I just moved into my new place. And so I just have turned on lights that I've never turned on before. I've only been here 72 hours and it's been crazy. So
it's always fun when you're trying to figure out where your light switches are.
All right. And if anybody's been in any of my talks before, I try to pitch kind of hard and fast. So at the end, feel free, or as we go through, feel free to type in questions and we'll just address them so that I don't miss anything, like fail to talk about whole concepts that I'm just speaking of casually.
Yeah, right. If you go over our heads too much, we'll stop you.
In a short period of time, I try to pack it full. Okay. So many of you have seen a curve like this before. And if you haven't, there are some really good books on this. One of my favorites is called Crossing the Chasm. Crossing the Chasm is like the second book, but if you read it, you'll be fine. But there was a school of thought called technology marketing that grew up around the rise of Apple and Silicon Valley, which talked about how a product over time gets adopted by different kinds of users. Okay. Now, the shape of this curve and the mathematics of those curves of adoption of a new technology or a new product are what mathematically we refer to as a diffusion model or diffusion theory. So that top level curve is that. The stuff in the middle is marketers and social scientists trying to explain why the diffusion is happening or the mechanism of diffusion. We good?
Yep.
All right.
I got it.
So that's good. So it turns out the real challenge in technology marketing is for every new product in every new category, the game changes. The physics of those markets are different from one another, which is why I like to say people who failed a lot do well because they've had to ride these different models and these different markets. And they understand that the same tricks never work twice.
Okay.
The same
Right.
tricks never work twice the same way. So I'll caveat it there. So there are good tactics, but that doesn't mean they always work, and they don't always work the way we expect them to. The world isn't that simple. And so when I got a new product, let's say I've got a great idea for a new technology in particular or a new product, usually when that gets introduced to the market, it's usually like slightly obscure, like here's a personal computer. That's like a great paradigmatic example. The personal computer first was very expensive because there was a lot of new technology in it. And it really only was useful to people who really had to crunch numbers and had these critical needs and were willing to get over all the pain and suffering that they had to go through to use a PC in those days. And so over time, that technology morphed. And arguably, the introduction of the PC was a big thing in the morphing of computing. It made computing accessible to a person. It made it personal. And that trend continued, and therefore PCs followed an adoption curve, much like the one you see now. And then what happened to PCs is that market kind of petered off when personal computing even got more personal, and we were all able to carry it around in our cell phones. So the computing itself is this giant wave, but the technologies that serve that or the products often tend to go through these cycles.
Got it.
Okay. Now, there are certain things in our lives that it turns out we can't replace. And those products have very constant demand. They get adopted. And once they're adopted, and that's the difference between adoption and sales, they kind of stay at that level of adoption. So that's why these curves are often referred to as adoption curves.
Because they're beginning
once people adopt them, they have to repurchase them later. But everybody's already said, I've got a washing machine. I'm never going to not have a washing machine unless I'm on the streets.
That's a good animation.
All
Got
right.
it. You want me to go?
Next
All
chart.
right.
So the problem with most technologies is they start life as complicated, hard to use, and expensive. And then there's this thing called the chasm. And the chasm is, how do I take that product and figure out how to reduce it to something that's simple and accessible enough for everybody to use? And that's called the chasm. Okay, why did we just talk about all this? This is awesome marketing theory, number one, and it's just interesting. And it's great as people, entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs, start to like try to shape their head around business. It also turns out that these same models, which talk about early groups and copycats. So the idea is that there's early people who kind of get it and they latch on and they buy something, even when it's unaffordable and hard to use. And then there's a bunch of people who watch what they're doing and then some things that magically happen to the product, and then they copy those people. And then other people copy them, like word of mouth. Hey, I've got this great thing. It's called a banana. You need to go pick some bananas off the tree yourself, and you're going to love them. And then they pick bananas, and they tell their buddies about bananas, and soon enough, we're all eating bananas. Okay? That's how things spread. Well, it turns out, next slide, that's how viruses spread.
Ta-da! On that connection right there.
So viruses spread just like new products spread or new product adoption happens. Very similar. The math is identical. That's the key. The math is the same. And the math is the mathematics of models where we've got initial groups and we've got copycats or people to whom the disease is contaged. And then those people then give it to other people. Everybody following me so far? We good?
Yeah. This is when
people get it. We're good?
Yeah. Let us know if you're getting this concept. And this, I don't know why, but when Simon said there's a very big similarity between these two models, it clicked finally. And I was like, oh yeah, this makes sense. Yep. So I like your.
I think everybody's dropped, Tessa. We can go have a Coke now.
Yeah, we're good. No one's here. Okay. All right. Yeah. Guys, let us know. Give us a thumbs up if you're following that these two. But Simon's going to tell you more.
Yeah. So here we go. So now let's talk about viral diffusion in COVID-19. So the question is, what is going on? So next slide. Mm-hmm. So it turns out that we've gone through 3 phases, each of which has different model parameters. In the first phase, we had basically a virus in the wild, and we had a bunch of people who had no idea what was going on or weren't willing to do anything about what they did know. And the virus was able to freely spread, albeit kind of at these early low levels. That curve that was going to be formed, I'm going to show you in a second, but it was going to be a lot of people getting sick real fast. And then we woke up and said, we're in trouble. And let's attempt to change the physics of the spread of the virus. And that's this next phase, phase 2. And in phase 2, we changed the physics by which the disease spread, and therefore the model that represented that would have resulted in fewer people getting sick and the thing getting spread out over a longer period of time. It's not just that we were flattening the curve. We were changing to a better curve. It was a happier curve.
And we're going to show you the curve again in just 1 second.
Phase 3 is where we're at today. In phase 3, every day we're changing the rules of the game. So from a modeling perspective, we've created these daily change variables that actually we can't model. It's social and political consensuses around how much we distance. And so the real question is, what are we willing to put up with? And that's what's driving the model now. So let's go to the next chart. And these are those 3 phases. Phase 1, a bunch of people were going to get sick really quick. And in phase 2, we squashed the curve and less people were going to get sick. The area under the curve, this is like calculus, the area under the curve was lower, and that would be the total number of people who would get the disease. Now, what happened was we loosened social distancing. So as soon as we started to loosen social distancing, sure enough, the curve shoots up. But the question I had when I modeled this was, what would be acceptable to us? Like, how much spreading would we put up with? And then we would, of course, modulate our behavior based on that. Well, it turns out rapid rise. We had some tolerance for rising levels, maybe 10, 15%, but now things are getting out of hand. And so we're anticipating that we're going to see continued slow and steady growth. The disease will not go away. It will continue to diffuse. We're still at a relatively low level of population adoption of the virus. And so we got a long time to go. Why am I telling you this?
I was going to say, it does tie into your business and your startup.
Why am I telling you this? Because these form the new conditions of the market.
Right, exactly.
Where we're at today is not going away. And so from a entrepreneurial perspective, you need to think in terms of these market conditions and their evolution. The past is dead. The future is slightly different. And we have to embrace, as business people, this future to be successful. We have to be realists and pragmatists while maintaining a vision. But that vision needs to be aligned with where the future is going. And so that's why I wanted to show you this. I also think, again, it's really neat to see an analytical framework which ties together all of marketing and all of COVID-19.
Well, I mean, I think it's just exciting to see that this next section, like, what does this mean for us, right? There's some sectors that are going to be strong because of this, and you can be proactive. You can look ahead. Yes, this is something that's going to be around for a little bit. Could be, you said, like, short term, definitely, midterm, maybe, and then we just have to be thinking ahead. And somebody in our chat said that this virus is what helped them to come up with their product. That's what this slide is about. Like, where can we take advantage of it?
So what we're trying to look at is, where should we be? I mean, if we had to choose, opening a restaurant that doesn't do takeout would be probably a bad idea right now, right? You don't need to be a rocket scientist about that, but you really need to be thinking at the sector level. If you're not thinking at the sector level or the category level, you're likely to make mistakes. You need to think about, is my product playing into an area with strength? And if it is, you had better move now, right? Business opportunities don't last forever. And the era we were in before this, the era we're in now, and the era that's going to follow, and the era that's going to fast follow, those are well connected. But we had this strong breakpoint with COVID-19. It really changed a lot and broke a lot. Who would think that, like, movie theaters would be a sector that just would get wiped out? On-premises entertainment got killed. Right. All right. And that killed things like live music, anything live, anything that had to occur on premises. Lots of events and entertainment forms just got wiped.
But we are shifting. So events now, live music, musicians are having to go to social media channels and figure out how to monetize in social media channels now.
And so everything's different. It goes from an event that we thought of as a live event, which has a whole economy behind it.
Right.
People who do lighting, people who do stages, and it moved to digital and virtual. So those are the things that you see on the left-hand side, the strong sectors. Anything at home, education, training, and the long list. Digital, gaming, technology and apps, distance versus gathering, e-commerce retailers, industrial real estate, augmented reality, robotics. 5G is going to be even more of a thing now. Virtual meeting and social gathering. Anything where I can get essentials online. Those very essentials. What's important to me now that I'm stuck at home?
Right.
What's going on in, like, the supply chain that feeds this at-home engine? Things like refrigeration and cooling and storing and stuff to put stuff in your freezer, all sorts of stuff. Dark kitchens, right? If you want to run a restaurant, don't open it an expensive piece of retail. Open it off the beaten path, make it dark, and just do delivery. Or many variants of that. I know a number of caterers whose business died, and they decided they're going to do a dark kitchen. Working awesome.
Amazing.
Reverse globalization. Stuff that before we sourced internationally, that may be harder to source internationally, so we want to ramp up domestic production. But as a business person, you're like, you don't want to get crushed when those guys come back in.
Right.
Anything that helps strengthen supply chain. And of course, e-learning just as its own category is a big deal.
What's interesting too, I want to say that the weak sectors right now, the travel, leisure, hospitality, you mentioned VR and virtual reality, and there are glasses now that are coming out and I'm so excited about. I can't wait to own my own pair. But you can do education, you can shop online, you can go travel somewhere with them virtually and see, a lot of the place. And so I think that some of these places, leisure and hospitality, they have to rethink what they're doing so that they can make, still make it work right now.
There are a lot of human needs that these sectors were filling. And the question is, when you can't go do them, how can you meet those same needs? So how can you meet needs that are human and things and luxuries that people become accustomed to, essentials that people become accustomed to, and how can you migrate those into the virtual space? The strongest channels are direct retail, Amazon, digital direct, physical delivery, virtual delivery, and everything that can entail. All of those channels are strong right now. The weak channels are things like retail, on-premises travel, anything that really requires people to be mobile. Now, people are remobilizing, and as they remobilize, they do have needs. But in general, if you look at the upcoming school year, Texas looks like it's going to be offering virtual classrooms for people who want to stay home 100%. A lot more kids are going to be at home. What are kids at home going to need when they're in school? Those are the kinds of thought processes that we're trying to evoke through this talk.
Got it. Do you want me to go ahead and switch?
Yeah.
Oh, look, you're done.
Oh, no, you missed one.
I missed one?
Yeah, there.
No, you don't have another one in there. Well.
Startup tactics, slide 9.
Startup tactics? Why is it not showing it? Well.
Oh, maybe because I have to get off of it.
Simon's hogging it. All right, let me see.
Again, Tessa. Otherwise, I'll just talk through. I'll talk through the startup tactics. I don't know why somehow it's not cloning on Tessa.
That's okay. I'm gonna just hit refresh, and then maybe it will. Look at there. We'll see if there's a slide 9 for you guys or not. There is a slide 9.
All right.
We just have to refresh.
Okay. See, we're beating.
There you go. Okay.
All right. So there are some business tactics. There are a lot more than this that are germane to talk about. But right now, if you're trying to kickstart your idea to get going, there are some things that you normally take a lot of time. And since we've got time, you can do them. And so, first of all, building a team is always critical. Building that core set of stakeholders. Also building digital online audiences is the marketing complement to that. While you're building your internal team, you need to build your external, we'll call it Mickey Mouse Club. You need to build your online support, your online marketing channels, audiences, all those good things.
Right.
Research takes time. This is a great time to research and go all the way from research to product variants and prototyping.
And all that is online for the most part. Most of the research, I mean, Fred will say it too. He'll say, the best research tool you need to start with first is Google and then go deeper in past that. But we almost all have that.
And prototyping is something you can do at home. And if you can't do it at home, you can work with local shops and people who have plenty of time on their hands at home. Prototyping is one of those things that's so fundamental to the success of a startup, either digital prototyping, use case prototyping, you've got a game you want to prototype, you've got a product idea. All of those things take time. And now is a great time to embrace all of that. Getting to market with a minimum viable product. Minimum viable products are those products we develop to test a market, but at the same time to try to earn some initial return. Minimum viable products traditionally don't require bazillions of customers. They require tight and enthusiastic audiences. Those are very straightforward to build now, no different than in the normal economy.
Mm-hmm. And actually, I
Marketing.
just have to say that with Goliath, when he was building his tribe, if you will, his group, he did that inside a Facebook group, and that's his enthusiastic audience, and he's communicating with them regularly. That would be where the minimum viable product could definitely go.
And right now, people are spending more time on social groups online than they ever have. It's amazing. It's more than just the normal growth trajectory. It went up like this with COVID-19. And you have these incubators of activity, of social frenetic activity that you can tap into to get feedback and to build affinity and engagement. So it's a great time to be doing this online audience building. You do need to do creative financing even more than ever if you're trying to raise money. Now, the good news is like at the low level, it's still available. But if you're a business that's really ramping, financing is hard right now. And so you do have to get creative. But we did a whole talk on bootstrapping.
We did. And financing. We have a whole show on getting financing and what's out there for you.
And it's just perfect. So that's a really, really good talk to watch. And Tessa probably...
I will drop the links into the chat. So definitely.
But it's more than ever, the standard practices that I described around bootstrapping and creative financing are totally relevant.
It's true. It's true. All this is good stuff, guys. So, I mean, I'm excited about what we can do. If you guys haven't seen Fred's show about when the world stops, it's go time. This is a good time for you to be doing what you are doing now. So keep doing it. Stay positive. I think that's the really big important thing here. And I really appreciate you showing all this to us, Simon. I mean, like I had a lot of eye-opening moments through the curves and everything. So thank you guys for being here. And I'm just gonna take 1 second. I'll take this down and just make it the two of us.
And then questions.
Yeah, if anyone has any questions, we can definitely answer questions. Put it in the chat wherever you are. And Simon, can you see them okay? All the questions that are coming through? Okay.
I can see.
If there's any. Yeah, we have. And like I said, we had a couple people that said their idea was created during this time. So good for you guys. Awesome. Any questions? And if not, if you don't feel comfortable doing it on this public place, there is a link. There is a link. You can put it in the comments. We'll get back to you. We always look back at all the comments, but there is a link in our post that is a Q&A form. So if you have questions and you want to put them in for another time, or something is bugging you that you've been trying to answer for a while, put it in the chat in that question and answer form, and we'll answer it on one of our upcoming shows. Well, thanks, Odin. I appreciate that. Thank you. And then Stephanie, and she said, thanks, Simon and Tessa. And oh, I know Sean Reed has lots of stars and fire. I mean, we will be stronger. You are right, Sean. We all will be stronger. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, stay safe with the 4th, everybody. Have a great weekend. And thanks for tuning in today.
Thank you all.